Everybody, let's close our eyes. Welcome, Pathfinders. Let's praise Jesus. Thank you again for this time. Thank you for the moment we can share and learn and learn from you. Bless Darren, bless the equipment, bless everything, Lord, so that we be blessed by what he shares. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Some of you may actually know me from actually serving ice creams and waffles at certain camporees, and unfortunately this one we can't do that this time. So, but I do have something. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can hear very well, Darren. If it's possible for you to go just a full screen on your PowerPoint presentation, that'll be great as well.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's no problem at all. It's no problem at all.
That's better.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So this is the very first premiere of the Human Trafficking Awareness Honor. I've really been involved in the anti-trafficking world and space for a little bit. So today we're going to give you an opportunity to learn about anti-trafficking or human trafficking. There's going to be quite a bit of statistics today, so you're going to have to pay close attention. But I think we have something exciting and interesting that if you pay good attention and you do some really good work after the session, then you may be in for a treat. At least 7 people. I know there's a lot of people out there, so I'll share with you a little bit. So I'm going to go through, this is the worksheet which some of you may already have downloaded. Oops, let me just, so this is the badge that you will earn. Let me just, sorry, move that out of the way. So what we're going to look at today is, or I'm going to share with you just a little bit about this badge. We're breaking the chains of slavery. In order to stop human trafficking, we must first be aware, and that's the first thing we're going to do today, is to help you to become aware of something that maybe you've never heard of before. So Psalms 82:4 says, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hands of the wicked. So we're going to look at some things which wicked people are doing. And we're going to try to take people out of their hands. I want to share just a little bit. Actually, I'll leave that to the end. Let me just continue. I'm sorry. So first of all, I started becoming aware of human trafficking actually about 22 years ago. And what we're going to do today is raise awareness. So I'm going to share with you whatever I know, a little actually, of what I know about human trafficking, raising awareness. That's the first thing. What I actually do also is to train and share information, again, with people, encouraging them to mobilize or helping them mobilize them into doing something more. That could be setting up organizations, going into the town and sharing leaflets, talking to more people, and just building that awareness of human trafficking, which is the first thing we need to do. We're going to look at the theoretical side of things, which clearly is what human trafficking is, where it exists, how we can spot it maybe, and also look at the spiritual side of things. Does the Bible tell us anything? Or is there any trafficking, human trafficking going on in the Bible? Are there any stories there? Think about that. And then practically, what can you do? Now, you know, we think we can always leave things to the adults. This is like an adult topic. This is something that they will take care of. Actually, no, this is something that we're all can actually contribute to. So we're going to look at the practical things that you can actually do to combat trafficking. So this here is the first thing I want to show you. I should just show you these actually. These here, if you can see really clearly, these are Tony Chocolonely's special bars of chocolate. I have 7 bars of these to give away later, and that's why you need to pay close attention to what we're going to share.
So brother Pastor Darren, just tell us a little bit, you know, what's the difference between a chocolonely and a chocolate?
Okay.
Is there a difference to that? Chocolonely?
That sounds, Pastor Clifford, like a chocolate honor. But
honor, yes.
The problem is that we did not answer that question in a chocolate honor. which you guys can go and watch. But Darren, maybe can you tell us that?
Okay, so this is a special bar of chocolate, actually. You know, we've heard of fair trade, and there's lots of chocolates which have a fair trade approval or trademark. This chocolate actually comes with the fair trade mark, but it also comes with a slave-free mark. In West Africa, more than 70% of the world's chocolate or cocoa beans come from West Africa. There is a great problem in West Africa. And so Tony, he decided to establish his chocolate company to guarantee that there is no slavery in this bar of chocolate. I think that's an amazing story, and I want to share some of that with you at the end. So let's go to the practical thing. So here we're going to read what the Oxford Dictionary says. We have lots of questions for you later, so just pay attention with me and stay with me just a moment. So human trafficking in the dictionary is described or defined as the action or practice of illegally transporting people from one country or one area to another, typically for the purpose of forced labor or sexual exploitation. The United Nations, who I've taken quite a lot of the statistics from today to share with you, says this: human trafficking involves recruitment, harbouring, or transporting people into a situation of exploitation through the use of violence, deception, or coercion, forced to work against their will. Now you'll notice in the top right-hand corner of your screen, it has number 1 there, okay? On this slide, you will be able to you'll be able to get the answer to complete number 1 of your worksheet. Try to make it really simple for you, okay? So on your worksheet, just to go through that, it says human trafficking involves recruitment, harbouring, or transportation, or transporting people into a situation of, what's the answer?
What do you think is the answer, people?
Yes, please put it in the chat section because we would like to have a better recording. So if it's possible, put in the chat section or the comment section on Facebook.
So we see there that human trafficking involves recruiting, harbouring, and transporting people into a situation of exploitation. That's what you need to write on your sheet in those spaces. Exploitation, violence, deception, and coercion. Okay?
Well, there's a lot to say in talking about, use the word exploitation. Yeah.
There is. You know, there's a lot to take in there. So let's look and break this down a little bit. Okay, let's break it down slowly so we can really understand what human trafficking is. So that's how it's defined by the United Nations. But there are 3 components that define or decide whether human trafficking is taking place. And that is number 2 on your worksheet, the act, the means, and the purpose. Let's look at that a little bit more closely. So the act is what is done. So the thing that's being done is someone is being recruited or transported or transferred somewhere. That's the act of human trafficking. Okay, and I believe that's the answer to your number 3 on your worksheet. And the means is, how is that done? So that's done through a threat, force, coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power, or vulnerability, or giving payments to people who are in control of the victims. There's quite a lot there. So this is your number 3, and this is the how. And the purpose. Now this one's really simple. Human trafficking, the purpose of human trafficking is to exploit people.
Yes.
The act, the means, the purpose equals human trafficking. However, for under 18-year-olds, which you all are, only the first 2 elements need to be present in order for human trafficking to be convicted, or for someone to be convicted of human trafficking, if they have the acts and the means present. So why is people trafficking so popular? Notice I said the word there, people trafficking. That's number 4. Give another name for human trafficking. It's people trafficking. And we've taken some of the statistics from the United Nations 20th edition Trafficking in Persons report. So let's look at some of those reasons now. So let's look at drugs. It can be sold just one time. It's consumed once, and it has many, many regulations and laws globally surrounding drugs. Believe it or not, there's much, much less laws surrounding human trafficking. And weapons. It can be sold one time, just like drugs. It has many regulations, the same situation. It's not so easy to get your hands on if you're not in the right circles. However, human trafficking can be sold over and over again. So imagine that a person has been trafficked. They maybe are caught in domestic servitude. Domestic servitude is like someone who may be a cleaner in your home, potentially maybe an au pair, or someone who is taking care of the house on an everyday basis. Now you can imagine that person has been trafficked once, but they are continually, every day, being exploited. That's one of the reasons why human trafficking is one of the fastest growing, well, actually it's the fastest growing crime in the world today. This is another question for your worksheet. How profitable is human trafficking on a worldwide scale? I haven't got to the questions yet, so we're going to have some questions, don't worry. I'm giving you a little bit of information as to the scope of this situation. $150 billion of illegal activity per year. There's an estimated 40 million people living in slavery today. Don't forget to look in the corner there. This will help you answer questions 9 and 10. So the Slavery Abolition Act on the 28th of August, 1833, spearheaded by William Wilberforce. Does anyone know who William Wilberforce was, or have they ever read or heard about him?
Okay, maybe ask some folks, what do they think? Anybody heard of William Wilberforce? Anybody want to share that a little bit? Where have you heard of him?
You can probably guess what he did from the slide, but does anyone know anything else about him?
Somebody heard from the Caribbean history class. They've heard. He's a person who had tried to abolish slavery, someone said. Yes.
He was a politician here in the UK, and he spearheaded. So he didn't do it alone, but he certainly invested the majority of his life to abolish slavery. And just a few months before his death, before he died, in 1833, that bill went through Parliament. And a year later, in August 1834, it came into effect. And on that day, supposedly 800,000 slaves in Africa and the Caribbean and Africans in the Caribbean and South Africa were freed. So that was a really important thing with regards to slavery that took place. Those are two dates that I think we need to remember and pay attention to. Something that someone did and spearheaded so long ago is affecting a lot of people today. But my point of sharing that with you is actually this. In 1834, when slavery was abolished, there were approximately 1 million slaves in America and approximately 10 million slaves worldwide. These are estimates. Yes. So at the time that slavery was abolished, there were approximately 10 million slaves. And yet today, what do we find? We find that there are an estimated 40 million slaves among us. So let's go back to there. What's the percentage here? We see that there were 10 million slaves in 1834, and in 2020, there are 40 million slaves. How many more times is that? Let's have a little question from someone. Tell us, how many more times is that?
Somebody said 4 times. Somebody said, yes, everybody says 4 times.
4 times the amount of slaves today as there was nearly 200 years ago. I find it staggering. I find it, you know, what do you guys think? Can you just share some thoughts on some of the things I've already shared? Any thoughts, anyone?
Somebody says heartbreaking. Somebody says pretty sad.
Very sad.
It's getting worse. Somebody said earlier they didn't realize that slavery was still legal today. They thought that's been long ago, you know. Didn't realize that it's still happening.
In actual fact, it's only legal in some countries. It actually, many countries or some countries don't actually have a bill against, you know, human trafficking or slavery. On the whole, internationally, I wouldn't say it's legal, but it's amazing that this is happening right under our noses. And we'll see some of the places in a moment where slavery exists. And it really does exist, you know, in our towns, maybe on our streets, in every country in the world. So these are 2 dates I wanted to share with you, because I want you to, you know, remember these dates. These are opportunities. On the 2nd of December, this is the International Day for the Abolition of Slavery. That's a really important date to remember. Maybe it's an opportunity for us, for you as a Pathfinder group to go into your towns and tell people something about what you've learned, what you're learning today. And also on the 30th of July, this is every year. So this is an international day. This is a World Day against trafficking in persons, human trafficking. So this was just last week, actually.
Wow.
So where do you think these people are hiding? Can we have any ideas? Where do you think all these 40 million slaves are?
Where do you think the people are? Anybody guess why? Where they're hiding? Some says India, North Korea, rural areas in rural countries. Somebody says Romania, Sudan and Syria, China, Africa, some says. Concentration camps. Ooh, the chat is just bubbling over with ideas. America, Venezuela, Ukraine, Brazil, North Korea, America, somebody says, Africa.
All absolutely correct answers. That's where they're hiding. They're hiding, but actually, my apologies, they're not hiding. You know, these slaves are in plain sight. They are around us. And that's the thing we're going to look at today to see, you know, we'll have a little bit more understanding as to where they are. And I would say, you know, you shared with me countries, but we find them in the cotton industry. We find them in the garment industry, in the factories all across the world. Seafood industry, construction industry, the car wash industry, and beauty salons. And I've just picked some of the industries which I want to share with you a little bit today. Cotton picking. India is the largest producer of cotton, but the United States is the largest exporter. Now, why did I share that with you? What happens when a country like the USA exports all their cotton to places like India? It drives down the price. And when we drive down the price of anything, what happens? What do we do with the people in India, in Bangladesh, in Asia, in China, who are now picking by hand this cotton? What happens to their pay? It goes down, right?
It goes down, yeah. Cheap labor, someone says it gets labor, it's lower.
So now we need more cheap labor. And how do we get cheap labor? Any ideas? We exploit people.
Exploit, yes.
We traffic more people. But we need cheaper products. this is the cycle we have. So here's a question for you. How many cotton balls do you think it takes to make one shirt? Not a t-shirt, a shirt like what I'm wearing today, one of your Pathfinder shirts. How many cotton balls do you think it takes to make just...
How many cotton balls do you think, guys? You can choose from 10, 50, 350. Some says 350. Others say 50. Most says 350. Some says 500, 10. A lot of people says 200.
Somebody may...
So it's sort of balanced between 500, 350. So 350.
Okay, I was a little bit quick there. It takes 350 cotton balls to make just one shirt. I don't know if that's surprising to you. That's very surprising to me. That's a lot of cotton balls that someone needs to pick. If you're in Asia, you'll be picking it by hand. If you're in America, you'll be picking it with combine harvesters. In America, you're getting cheap products which you flood the market with, which encourages trafficking. Here's another question for you. How many miles of cotton does it take to make one shirt?
How many miles of cotton? Okay, there's a question for you people. How many miles of cotton does it make? Some says 110. Mostly some say about 200, 110, 85. Oh, it's all over the place. There are lots of answers. Mostly 200, 110.
So I think
between there.
I put the larger numbers maybe to throw you off a little bit. I mean, if it was 200, it would be a crime that every shirt we wear had 200 miles of cotton in it. So it's not as much as 200.
Okay.
It is 57 miles.
Wow.
That's still worth a moment just to consider that when you put a shirt on, you're wearing 57 miles of cotton. 350.
That's amazing, Darren. Think about 57 miles of cotton. Wow. Okay.
It's crazy. Here's another question. How many liters of water does it take to make that same shirt?
How many liters of water do you think, guys? Some says 2,700 liters of water. 2,200, some people say. 1,600. 1,600.
We are
mostly is 1,600 is the guess.
Okay, okay. So we're talking from watering the cotton plants, which cotton needs a lot of water. So we're talking from watering the cotton right through to washing that cotton once it's picked, and there's a lot of water that's needed there. So here we go. 2,700 liters.
Wow.
And I want to just share with you how that works. So an Olympic-sized swimming pool will have 2.7 million liters of water. And I don't know if you can imagine an Olympic-sized swimming pool is quite a bit bigger than maybe your local swimming pool that you go to. This is a 2.7 million liter water in there, which is enough water to produce just 1,000 shirts.
Wow.
Think about how many shirts sit in the shops that you go into. Think about how many shirts you have at home across all of your family members. Just share with you a little bit about the garment industry. Again, in the textile industry, similar, well, it's the same as cotton. Let's ask the question, what does it take to produce a pair of jeans for $6? £6. Do we stop? Do we stop and think about these things? I was blown away just as I was putting this presentation together to know that actually there are more than 100 people that touches one single pair of jeans.
Wow.
Approximately 60 to 80 people will actually sew that jeans. One will do the buttons, do the stitching, do the hemming, do the cutting, do the trimming, do you know that if you buy jeans with holes in them, there is a team of people that makes holes in that material before it's stitched. They use a sandblasting machine. So approximately 60 to 80 people is touching your jeans before it gets to you and you can buy it for £6. The seafood industry. China is the largest exporter, Norway is the second, and Thailand is the third. And I want to share with you a little story here. So often, people from Cambodia, they go over the border to Thailand in search of work. There was a 15-year-old boy in Cambodia, and his family were finding it difficult to support the whole family. And so they sent their 15-year-old son to Thailand to work, and they sent him off with his uncle. Just days after arriving in Thailand, the boy found himself on a ship off the coast of Thailand, fishing for the fish that we consume today. So he found himself there on the boat for 3 years. He didn't see any land, and he didn't see any money.
Wow.
He turned up on the coast of China 3 years later. And there he somehow found someone. They contacted the police, and I'll share with you a little bit more about his story later. 3 years he was stuck on a boat, trafficked from Cambodia to Thailand by his uncle. And I just want to recap, the reason we have this happening is the wickedness we have in the world, but we also want to have cheap fish. The construction industry. Here in the UK, people go into the construction industry with the right paperwork, the right documents, but sometimes employers will take their passports away. They can't run, but yet they are right there in plain sight, building the homes, the factories, the infrastructure, the shopping malls, or whatever it is that we use and we consume. The construction industry is the biggest employer of immigrants here in the UK.
Wow.
Car washes. I have some, I have small children, and they love to go to the car washes, particularly the ones that you drive through. But here in the UK over the last 15 years or so, we have seen an explosion of hand car washes. They're on the sides of Asda's, of Tesco's, disused parking lots, and they just spring up from everywhere. And so this slide reminds us that in 2018, 27% of the labor exploitation cases that were recorded by the Modern Slavery Helpline. So this is the helpline that people are calling. 27% of the cases were to do or connected with car wash workers.
Wow.
These are places that we see around our towns all the time. Places that we use, actually. Just lastly here, beauty salons. I chose to share these with you because they are places that we go to, or maybe our parents, and we see them in town. What does your £10 manicure really cost? I came across this article just in January this year. The advert said, best nail bar in town. Some of you may be from Peckham. In Peckham, there was a small nail bar. It was run by Vietnamese girls doing manicures, pedicures, whatever. On a Thursday afternoon, 20 police officers raided that little establishment. They arrested 3 individuals, and they were charged with human trafficking violations. There were 4 girls that were taken away, given medical help, treatment, and advice. They had been trafficked from Vietnam. Pathfinders, I hope I'm sharing with you things that I'm choosing to share with you things that you're going to see, you know, on your travels as you walk through town, you know. And it doesn't mean that every salon you see this is happening, but it's just to give you an idea that this is right in our towns. You know, it's next door to us. It's in our high streets. There are places that we use. And so the way that we can really combat some of these things happening is to be firstly aware and to open our eyes and to see what's happening and to make good choices. We must choose where we spend our money, where we put our finances. And so this is why I'm sharing this with you. I'm sorry, there's a lot of information here, and it's a lot to take in, actually. So here's some statistics for you. Human trafficking is the third largest criminal enterprise in the world. Third after drugs and weapons. But it is the fastest growing business. It's a whopping $150 billion industry a year. It exists in every single country, and that doesn't mean people are being trafficked only from every single country. It means that they're being trafficked, well, they're being trafficked from every country. They exist in every country. Because we live in a first world country, as I've shared with you, we are not exempt to the human trafficking issues that are happening. This is an issue that is really dear to me, clearly. It is out of control. And actually we need young people. We need everyone, but particularly we need young people who are on social media, who can share some of these things, who can keep their eyes open, and who can set ministries and businesses up to actually change the world, one person at a time, and to help eradicate human trafficking. So here's some other questions that you need to answer on your sheet, number 18. So how many women are there trafficked? Approximately 51% of women, 21% men, 20% girls, and 8% boys. So predominantly we see that it is women who are predominantly being trafficked, men also for labor. 63% of identified traffickers are men, and actually surprisingly 37% are women. Wickedness does not separate men and women, and 43% of victims are trafficked domestically. Now this is really important, because some people, again, we think we just go to faraway lands and we bring everyone here into the UK. In the UK, 43% of all human trafficking or trafficked victims are actually from the UK. That's quite staggering. So it's in every country, no exception. It's in every industry, no exception. It's in every town. It could be on your street, and it could be next door. That's not to scare you. That's to tell you that human trafficking exists everywhere. And we really need to raise the awareness of this. Modern slavery is closer than you think. So we've got some questions for you here. We're going to take it into the Bible. You've had a chance to look at your worksheet. So what human trafficking story can you think of in the Bible? Anyone?
Okay, guys. Yep. What human trafficking story can you think of in the Bible? Any story that you think of that represents any of these challenging things? Joseph with his brothers. There's an example there, Darren.
Yeah. Well, that's the one I was looking for.
Okay.
Okay, so
you can think of, guys? Lots of people said Joseph. Some say Naaman, the little girl from Naaman, the servant girl that worked for Naaman.
Okay.
Some say.
Okay, we're going to look at Joseph today. And in Genesis chapter 37 to chapter 50, we find the whole story of Joseph's life from when he was being trafficked to his death. And we're going to focus on Genesis 37, which is the part where he was betrayed, he was trafficked, and he was sold. So this is what, Pathfinders, you need to read this section. I want you to familiarize yourself with Genesis 37 particularly. But as you look at Joseph and as we talk about him, you may actually want to read on a little bit more. It's always good to have a good context and to see what happens after Joseph was betrayed, trafficked, and sold, of course. And many of us know that, but I'm just saying, take the time to read a little bit further and familiarize yourself with the whole of Joseph's story. So here's some questions for us. The first question is, who sold Joseph?
All right, there's a question. Who sold Joseph? Some said his brothers. His brothers.
The story very well.
Yeah.
So his brothers. Okay. Next question. Where did Joseph live before he was sold into slavery?
Okay, guys, there's a challenge for you. Think about it. Where did Joseph live before he was sold into slavery? Anybody know? He lived in a home. He lived in Canaan. Canaan, a lot of people said Canaan. He lived with his mom and dad. Canaan. Yep.
I was looking for the place, Canaan, but it's interesting, and I like, he was living in a home. He was living with his mom and dad. He was living with his brothers. He was living with his family. And there we found that he was sold into slavery. So Canaan is the right answer. Who was Joseph sold to?
Who was Joseph sold to? Somebody says, yes, the Ishmaelite traders. Ishmaelites. Somebody says to Potiphar. The Ishmaelite traders, to traders, yes.
Yes, Ishmaelite traders. We have the Midianites there, which is the same kind of people, I think. So that's right. And how much was Joseph sold for?
Okay, there's a challenge, guys. How much money was Joseph sold for? 30 pieces of silver. Some says 20 shekels. 30 silver shekels, 20 silver shekels. Which one is correct? 20 pieces of silver? Don't confuse with how Jesus was betrayed, okay?
That's right. This was 20 shekels
of silver.
That's right. Our next question is, where was Joseph taken? These are pretty simple questions for you guys. Where was Jesus taken?
Where was Joseph taken, guys? To Egypt. Lots of people, that's a very simple question.
Of course he was. He was taken to Egypt.
Yeah.
And Joseph was sold again to who? We heard the answer earlier.
Joseph was sold to who? To Potiphar. Some says to the king.
He was sold to Potiphar.
Yes.
That's right. These are lessons, as you read the section, chapter 37, these are lessons that I just wanted to share with you that we can take out of the Joseph story. So jealousy can really ruin your family. I mean, Joseph's brothers really ruined the family, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
But in the process, Joseph did something. He maintained his character. No matter what happened, Joseph maintained his character. And these are things that I want you to really remember. He maintained his character. And although he was imprisoned, although he was sold and he was in this terrible situation, he was diligent and productive. He did what he had to do. He did it well. He worked for Potiphar, and he just did what he had to do. He got on with his life. Even though he was in this difficult situation and predicament. And in response to that, God protected Joseph. He protected him in times of trouble. We must not run from sin, or sorry, we must run from sin at all cost. Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph, and he said no. And Joseph was promoted and blessed. So when we do these things, we find in our lives that we get elevated. God looks after us, he promotes us, and he blesses us. And in the end, he chose forgiveness over resentment against his brothers. He forgave them. And these are things that we can learn very well. Let's take some time to read this. So 3 times in Joseph's story, we find it refers to in these places, but God was with him. Okay, so we find that God was with Joseph, and it reminds us that no matter how terribly we are treated by others, sold, betrayed, falsely accused, maybe just someone did something to you at school and in church, in your family, let's not forget that God is with us, and with God's presence, he can carry us through all those difficult times. Even now, we're in a difficult time with COVID, with lockdown, with the situations going on, and we all have different stories. We all have different experiences with that. But God is with us, and he will see us through. Again, Joseph is or was a trafficking survivor, and he didn't lose his faith, and he ultimately spoke forgiveness to his brothers. So here's a question for you. Maybe you can help answer this one. So as a child of God, just think about yourself. As a child of God, what should your response be to human trafficking? Tell me. Give me some answers, please. What's your response to human trafficking? What should our response be? Pastor Clifford, are you still with us?
Yes. What should be our responses, guys? Learn more about and help to end it. Some are saying.
Absolutely.
Forgive them. Some are saying here as well. Forgive them. Learn more. Raise awareness. Yes.
Absolutely.
Help people to try stop human trafficking. Yes. Join campaigns against this. Do not be tempted. Many say, help those who are poor, rescue them. Be aware. Most people are saying, report it, some saying.
Excellent. Absolutely. Absolutely. Many ways that we can do that. So this is what these 2 verses in the Bible say, and I chose these, and you may see why later. And it says here, learn to do good. So this is things we can do. We can learn to do good. We can seek justice when we see it. We can correct oppression when we're faced with it. And we can bring justice to the fatherless and plead for the widow. The Lord requires you to do justice. So he wants us to do justice. He requires us to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. So these are things that God wants us to do. Basically, let's break it down. Let's do good, kids. Let's seek justice. When someone's saying something about someone and it's not true, or you've been hurt, let's seek justice for people. Let's correct or fight against oppression, and let's bring justice to the fatherless, and let's care for the widow. And here we see the Lord requires you, and he requires me, and he requires us to do justice, to love, show kindness, and to walk humbly with God. Really, really important verses and texts in the Bible for us to kind of hang on to. He requires us to do these things. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, are we doing them? We have to ask ourselves a question. Is there something I can do to bring justice to the people maybe that don't have a voice? That's a challenge for all of us. So let's look at the practical things we can do now. So many of you may have a social media platform. The first thing, as we're doing here, is just to share some of the information we've learned. We may find articles online, we may find stories that we can share through our social media feeds. Also, as part of the worksheet, we actually produce this leaflet. Okay, so this is one of the practical things that's actually on your worksheet. So basically, these are the leaflets. We're suggesting that you could print these and you can drop them door to door. In actual fact, that's one of the requirements under the practical section. So you do need to do that if you want to receive this this honor and this badge. Okay, you can talk to somebody about what you've learned. It doesn't have to be the whole presentation, just something small that you think, you know, this is really stuck in my mind, you know, and I just want to share this with one person. If you share it with the right person, it may get shared with hundreds more. And so never underestimate the little that you can do, you know?
Very
Sorry.
good.
So many of you, you've got to do something on this slide. Many of you have phones. Maybe you can take just a second and write this number down. You need to write it down on your forms anyway. But this is a number that's worth having on your phones. This is the UK contact number. Now, if you're watching us and you're not from the UK, search for the Human Trafficking Hotline in your country. And if you can't find one, you know, you need to call the police if you see something happening, or if you find yourself in a difficult situation. Report to the authorities. Other practical things that we can do, of course, is to pray for God's protection. Something else which I showed you earlier with these chocolates, the fair trade mark. So on the back, you can see there's a fair trade mark there. Many products will have that. And so it's always good to look at the labeling of things that we purchase. When you're buying clothes and goods from retailers, check to see if they have a modern Slavery Act statement. That's really important because now if a business is of a certain size, they must have a modern Slavery Act. That basically explains that they are trying to eradicate slavery within their supply chain. So let's say Waitrose, I bought these, we were given these chocolates by Waitrose actually, and they do have a modern Slavery Act statement. I approached them just yesterday and I asked them if we can have some of these to give away to you guys, and that's what we'll be doing. And they have a modern Slavery Act. So it's really simple to find out if people have this in their businesses, okay? And when you're making those larger purchases, you know, maybe you're talking to your parents about buying you something a little bit more expensive, something large, maybe a new bike or something, maybe it's like 100 or 200 pounds. I suggest that it's really important to consider those large purchases and to think where you're choosing to buy that from. Where's that bike being produced? Where's that bike coming from? And who's actually touched your bike or that pair of jeans? Now, there's something really important that we can do here. Now, we've kind of seen that there's an extensive network of traffickers across the globe. What we must do is to build a counter network. And here, I'm going to share with you a little bit, just very basically, what happened to that 15-year-old Cambodian boy who ended up on the shores of China 3 years after leaving his family. So he found someone or called the police or was in contact, and because of the extensive network of organizations, various different departments within government and various things, he was able, within 48 hours of saying, I'm in trouble, within 48 hours, he was back in Cambodia with his family again. Through the networks of people that, effectively people that care. There are numbers of organizations that's helping people. And so I think there were about 6 organizations involved with repatriating this 15-year-old boy from China back to his home within 48 hours. There are lots and lots of organizations working to eradicate human trafficking, and I think we need to also look at that. Here, I want to share with you, in the UK, just last week, Thursday I think it was, the week before, 2 brothers who trafficked and held a young woman in slavery were jailed for 30 years in total between them. They pleaded guilty. They trafficked this girl from Romania to the UK, and they were caught. They were jailed, they pleaded guilty, but we see there IJM, International Justice Mission, actually, International Justice Mission. They were involved in that whole case, and they were able to help and assist just this one person to be back home with her family. And that's current, that's right, that was last week. You know, so there's lots of stories. Here we see a range of organizations that's working within this space. Recently, I didn't say earlier, I've set up my organization called Modern Day Crimes to raise awareness and to help to be involved in this. You're either on one side or the other. You're either part of the problem, we are either part of the problem, or we're helping by raising awareness and being part of the solution. Mm. So just want to share with you what I did, you know, in my ministry and business. It was last year I attended an anti-trafficking conference in Bangkok in February. And as I sat, as I listened, it just became really obvious that, you know, I needed to do something. And so I made a decision at that moment that I was going to do my best to make my business and my ministry slave-free. I returned to the UK. I quickly came across this Slave-Free Alliance organization. We registered with them, and they are working with me. We are still working together towards a slave-free supply chain. What that actually means is that, you know, all the scarves that we produce, all the sashes that we produce for you, anything that we may produce in the future, even your garments, your t-shirts that you're wearing today, we have sourced them from companies who have a modern Slavery Act statement. So we're being diligent in who we use and who we don't use. We're making choices, choices that affect our business, affect my ministry, but it also affects, you know, clearly affects the people who have made those products. And I no longer want to be involved in these things that help people to be exploited. Where there is exploitation, where there are cheap products, where there's exploitation, you will find human trafficking. So just consider and bear those things in mind. Just in closing, just a few moments. One of the questions on your worksheets is, what would you say, let me just read from the worksheet. If you could scream a message, if you could scream a message of hope, of love, concern and compassion, just a few words to all those people worldwide that's held captive in slavery, being trafficked. I forgot one statistic. Every 30 seconds, someone is being trafficked. Oh. That's approximately 500,000 people per year. And that's an estimate. I would probably suggest there's more than that. So if you could say just a few words, maybe you can write it in the chats now. Tell us, what would you say? What's your message to all of these people?
Some says, God bless you. He loves you. God loves you, some are saying. Some says, leave everything to God.
Okay.
Help is on the way, some say. love one another, victory in Jesus. Some says the Lord will set you free. God will protect you. Some are saying as messages to share with others.
You know what my message would be? Something, I would probably say, I'm doing something to help you. And as much as it may not be personal to that person, I want to say, but I'm doing something. And I want to say to you today, make a decision to do something for this cause. That's all we can do. You know, you can pray. You've said, you know, God is in control. Bless you. You know, he'll see you through. So these are my final thoughts to you. You are the future of this world. And the decisions that you make today will absolutely influence what you do later in your life. So what I'm saying is the decisions you make today about where you buy your clothes, you know, whether you take this issue seriously or not, or whether you can do something, the decisions you make today will influence your life later and forever. My prayer for you is that you do better than I have done, better than those before me. You know, we've just got to stop leaving it for the next generation or leaving it for someone else. So my prayer for you is that you will do better than I have done. Mm-hmm. And choose industries to go into that will enable you to do this. As you grow, as you make decisions in life, as you choose your career path, choose industries that will enable you to do good, seek justice for those who need justice, correct or fight against oppression where it exists, and bring justice to the fatherless, care for the widows, and remember, walk humbly with your God.
Okay.
I just want to go one more minute, half a minute. One of the points in the practical section on your worksheet, it says produce a short presentation, 2 to 3 minutes, sharing what you've learned about human trafficking. Record it on a phone, and I want to see those sent in to the South England Conference. And what you're going to receive as a result of sending that in, we're going to have a little competition, actually. I actually have 3, 6, 9, 10, I have 12 bars of chocolate, okay? I have 12 bars of chocolate. They were obtained for you. I want to give you one of these. We will be choosing the best 12 presentations, and I will be sending you one of these directly to your home, but we'll work through the Pathfinder department. And if you want to get one of these, and these chocolates, inside, if you've never had one of these, all the segments are different. They signify human trafficking. They signify many, many different stories, okay? And you know, these are not cheap bars of chocolate, I want to tell you. This is worth getting. Do your best, make your presentation, make it your own, use some of the things that I've shared with you, and I'm gonna be really excited to see what you come up with, okay? Listen, thank you so much for participating. It's a new honor. It's an exciting honor. It's a serious honor. But it's an honor that you can share with your friends once you've obtained this. Thank you so very much. And Clifford, Pastor Clifford, thank you so much for the opportunity. This has been amazing to speak to this audience.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. Would you mind just stop sharing your screen? Just to tell people, some people are asking, where do we send our presentation? Well, you're sending it to the BUC one. It's Diane at Adventist UK. Let me just put that in the chat because it's the BUC honor. So unfortunately, it seems to me that it's only for those in the BUC that's able to, unless you want to share, you send to Botswana. fortunately would only be those, because those are the ones who we will, who we receive your worksheets from. You send it to, in other words, all other worksheets are sent to your ones in your conference or in your part of the country. But those who are in the UK and in the BUC, send your worksheets and to Pastor Dan at the link that I've just set in the chat, Dan at Adventist.uk, and we'll make sure that the chocolates are sent to you. So yes, thank you. I wonder if you can unmute yourselves and everybody all together say thank you to Darren for this amazing and thought-provoking honor that he shared with us. Is that all right, everybody together? Thank you. Kanye, you unmuted? Oh. Pastor Dan, could you? I can't hear anybody. Is everybody unmuted?
Okay.
Thank you.
Unmute.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Makano.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I won't leave. I won't leave.
For your
Thank you, everybody.
worksheets are
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
okay. All your worksheets are, of course, on the
Thank you. Thank you.
chat,
Thank you.
on the